All right, let's dive into this Stage Academy Workbook thing.
Okay, yeah.
It's supposed to be like your one-stop shop for powerful communication. You know, like
Mm-hmm.
commanding attention, crafting stories, using body language to really make an impact.
You know what I find really interesting about this workbook
Yeah.
is that it doesn't just like throw techniques at you. It actually digs into the why behind them.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so it's kind of like
Yeah.
getting a backstage pass to the psychology and science
Yeah.
that makes communication work,
Right.
you know?
I like that, a backstage pass. Yeah, that makes sense. So like right off the bat, they start with these universal laws of communication.
Mm-hmm.
And one that really stood out to me was this idea of unfamiliar, not fake.
Okay.
And it's all about like embracing that awkwardness when you're trying these new vocal techniques, knowing that you're not being someone else, you're just expanding your range.
See, and that's the thing that I think a lot of people get hung up on.
Uh-huh.
They're so afraid to experiment with their voice because they think it'll sound fake,
Right.
right? But,
Yeah.
this unfamiliar, not fake thing reframes that so beautifully.
Totally.
It's like it's not about putting on an act. It's more about like unlocking your true voice,
Yeah, I like that.
your full potential.
Yeah, and then there's that application over acquisition law, which basically just says, hey, you got to practice this stuff.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Knowledge is only powerful when you actually use it.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I think that goes way beyond just communication, too,
Right.
It's about like moving beyond passive learning
Yeah.
and getting your hands dirty,
Yeah, totally. Like actually engaging with the material.
Yeah. And that's where the magic happens, the doing experimenting.
Right. And the workbook goes into these 5, what they call foundational skills
Okay.
for powerful communication, and they are rate of speech, volume, pitch, and melody, tonality, and the pause.
Oh, yeah.
And it's interesting because, like, at first glance, they seem kind of basic,
Sure.
but when you really dig into them, there's so much more to it.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of nuance there. And I think that's what the workbook does really well.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just about telling you what to do, but like why it actually works. It's like understanding how a car works.
Yeah.
It helps you appreciate how everything sits together.
I like that analogy. So, like, with rate of speech, for example,
Yeah.
the workbook talks about this knowledge curse,
Okay.
where the more you know about something,
Uh-huh.
the faster you tend to speak.
Oh, yeah. I've definitely been guilty of that.
Yeah, and then your audience is just like,
Totally.
wait, what?
Yeah, and I think it also goes the other way around, too.
Okay.
Like if you're trying to explain a really complex idea to someone who's totally new to it,
Right.
you really got to slow down.
Yeah.
Imagine trying to explain like cryptocurrency or something to your grandma who's never even heard of it.
Yeah.
If you just like rapid fire all that information at her, she's
Right.
doing so lost.
Totally lost.
But if you take it slow
Yeah.
and break it down step by step,
Right.
it can make all the difference.
Totally. Then there's volume, which you would think is like
Yeah.
pretty straightforward.
Uh-huh.
But they make this point that most people actually speak softer than they should
It's true.
because they're afraid of sounding like they're shouting.
Right.
But even just like a slight increase in volume
Yeah.
can make you sound so much more energetic and constant.
Engaging, yeah.
Right. And it's not about shouting. It's about
It's about projecting
projecting.
with
Yeah.
intention. And then pitch and melody, which I love that they have this siren technique.
The what?
The siren technique,
Okay.
where you make these like siren noises
Oh, okay.
to discover the full range of your voice.
Interesting.
I know it sounds kind of silly, but
Yeah.
it really,
I mean, but think about it.
yeah.
Why are songs so much easier to remember than just like regular speech?
Oh, well, that's a good point.
It's because of the melody, the
Yeah.
changes in pitch.
So it's like that siren technique is like a workout for your vocal cords.
Yeah.
It helps you get away from that monotone
Yeah.
and inject some musicality into your voice, makes you more engaging.
Yeah, totally. It's like adding flavor to
Exactly.
your speech.
Yeah.
Now, tonality, the emotion in your voice, they have this analogy of your face being like a remote control for your voice.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah.
mean, that's a
Yeah.
bit of a simplification, but I see what they're getting at.
Yeah.
Like, our expressions really do shape how our voice sounds.
Oh, for sure.
Like a genuine smile brightens your tone.
Right.
A furrowed brow makes you sound worried or tense.
Totally. And then they bring up this thing about mirror neurons, which is
All types of
fascinating.
Neurons, yeah.
Like how when we see someone expressing an emotion, it actually helps us understand and feel what they're conveying.
Right.
So it's like by consciously using our facial expressions, we can create a deeper connection with whoever we're talking to.
I'm with you.
Okay, the pause. This one's a game changer.
Oh, the pause, yes.
They make such a strong case for the power of silence.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I love how they frame it as a tool for, like, authority,
Uh,
clarity, even reducing filler words.
Reducing those ums and ahs?
Yeah, exactly. And I remember reading this anecdote where the author, Vin, he talks about his own struggles with filler words,
Oh, that's cool.
which I think is,
It's good to see that vulnerability.
yeah, it makes it relatable.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, these are skills that we can develop.
For sure.
It's not like some people are just born,
Exactly.
gifted with perfect communication.
And I think a lot of people avoid pauses
Yeah.
because they're afraid of those awkward silences.
Right.
But the workbook argues that we should actually embrace those moments.
Yeah. And it's not just about,
Right.
sounding polished or whatever. It's
Yeah.
more about giving your listener time to actually process what you're saying and to create space for a more meaningful exchange.
Sometimes those pauses
Yeah.
are where the magic happens.
Yeah.
It's when we take a breath, gather our thoughts,
Right.
and then boom, the perfect words come out.
Yeah, totally, totally. Now they get into these vocal archetypes.
Very cool archetypes.
Yeah, the idea that we use different voices depending on who we're talking to
Interesting.
and what we're trying to achieve.
I'm a little, I don't know,
I get it.
I always get a little wary when it feels like you're putting on a mask,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
like pretending to be someone you're not,
I know exactly what you mean.
but go on.
But the way the workbook frames it, it's not about, putting on a facade.
Okay.
It's more about recognizing the different parts of your personality
Uh-huh.
and, using them strategically to communicate more effectively.
Okay, so it's not about becoming a different person.
Right. Yeah.
It's about tapping into different sides of yourself.
Exactly.
Okay, I can get behind that.
And they break it down into these 4 main archetypes.
Okay, let's hear them.
The motivator, the educator, the coach, and the friend. It's like you have this,
A toolbox.
a toolbox of communication styles
Okay.
that you can just pull from depending on the situation.
And this probably ties into that format learning system, right?
Oh, you read my mind.
The why, the what, the how, and the connection. Yeah.
Each archetype really caters to a different aspect of that system.
Okay, lay it on me.
So the motivator, they're all about that why, inspiring action, getting people fired up.
Right, the big picture.
Yeah, and then you have the educator who's focused on delivering that information.
Nuts and bolts.
Yeah, exactly. Clearly and concisely.
Makes sense.
And then the coach, they're all about that, how providing guidance.
The action step.
Exactly. Empowering people to actually apply what they've learned.
Yeah, yeah.
And lastly, the friend, who's all about building rapport and connection.
The feel-good factor.
Yes, making people feel comfortable and open to your message.
Now I'm curious, does the workbook actually give you advice on how to switch between
Oh, yeah.
these archetypes?
They give some really good examples of
Oh.
how to seamlessly move between them
Right.
to make your communication more engaging and authentic.
Okay.
Let's say you're pitching a new idea to your team.
Yep.
You might start off as the friend,
Uh-huh.
building that rapport, establishing common ground,
Right, get everyone on the same page.
and then bam, you shift into the motivator,
Ooh, I like it.
highlighting the why behind this new idea.
And getting everyone excited.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then you transition into the educator,
Okay.
providing the information, explaining the what.
Gotcha.
And then you can circle back to the friend,
Okay.
solidifying that connection.
Bring it all together.
Right, encouraging ongoing engagement.
That's great, yeah.
It's like a dance,
It is. It's like a dance.
moving between these different energies and tones.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes this workbook so cool.
Yeah.
It's not just about learning a bunch of techniques.
Right.
It's about understanding how to connect with people
Yeah.
On a deeper level
Yeah, absolutely.
and communicate with.
Yeah.
Real authenticity and impact.
All right, so are you ready to unpack the power of storytelling?
Hit me with it.
They call it a superpower,
A superpower.
and they even go into the science behind it.
Oh, cool.
We're talking dopamine, oxytocin,
Yeah.
endorphins.
I'm all ears. Okay, so you're saying storytelling, it's not just entertainment. It's it actually triggers the release of chemicals in our brains.
Exactly, yeah. It's like this biological thing, and they break down which chemicals and how they affect us. Like dopamine, that boosts focus and motivation.
Right.
Oxytocin increases connection and trust.
Okay.
And then endorphins, they give you that feel-good buzz.
That's interesting. I actually read a study once
Yeah.
showing that storytelling can reduce cortisol levels.
Really?
which is the stress hormone, so it's not just about creating those good vibes.
Oh,
It can actually, like, diminish negative ones.
yeah.
Pretty powerful stuff.
It really is. And when you think about it, it makes sense. Like, we've been telling stories forever.
Right, from the beginning.
Passing down knowledge, history, values, all through stories.
It's how we make sense of the world, connect with each other,
Exactly.
and even inspire action.
Totally. So how do we harness this power?
Right.
Well, the workbook breaks it down into this 3-step formula. Pretty simple. The incident, the point, and the link.
All right, so it's not just about telling a good story.
Right.
It's about making it purposeful,
Mhm.
impactful, relevant, like storytelling with a mission, you know?
Right. So the incident, it's all about setting the scene,
All right.
like the who, what, where, when, but they emphasize going beyond just the facts and really bringing it to life with those sensory details.
Oh, yeah, paint a picture.
Yeah, they call it VAKS.
VAKS, okay.
It stands for visual, auditory, kinesthetic, and smell.
Oh, okay, I like that.
That's just to remind you to engage all the senses.
Yeah.
So instead of just saying, I went to a concert,
Right.
you're like, the stage lights were blinding.
Yes.
You could feel the bass in your chest.
Yeah, yeah.
The crowd was swaying.
You can smell the popcorn.
Exactly. You're transporting them
I'm there.
right into the experience.
I love that.
And they talk about, like, bringing characters to life through dialogue, body language.
Show, don't tell.
Exactly. So instead of saying, my friend was angry,
Right.
you could be like, are you kidding me right now?
Yeah.
Like, stomping their foot, throwing their hands up.
I can see it.
You know?
You're bringing those characters to life.
Exactly.
That's great.
Now, the point, this is where I think a lot of people, they kind of stumble
Uh-huh.
because it's about making the story relevant. Like, why are you telling this?
Right, what's the takeaway?
Yeah, and I think people shy away from explicitly stating the point.
Yeah, they think it's too obvious or preachy.
Yeah, but the workbook actually suggests, like, using this phrase. The reason I'm telling you this is because
Ooh, I like that.
it's like a signal to the listener that, like, hey,
Pay attention.
yeah, this is important.
That's the good stuff.
Exactly.
I like that.
All right, and lastly, the link.
Okay, the link.
This is where you connect it back to the listener or to a broader concept.
Okay.
You know, I like to connect it to, like, a shared human experience.
Oh, yeah.
Like overcoming a challenge, you know,
We've all been there.
or pursuing a dream, experiencing loss.
Finding those universal threads.
Yeah, it creates a deeper connection.
Makes the story more meaningful.
They have some really good examples in the workbook showing how a well-crafted story can have a lasting impact.
Now, what about the length of these stories?
Okay.
Like, some people go on and on.
Right.
Some keep it super short.
Yeah, they actually do address that.
Okay.
They recommend aiming for, like, 2 to 3 minutes for a beginner.
Okay.
It's enough time to set it up. Convey the point, make the link, without losing people.
That makes sense. Do they give any tips on keeping it concise?
Oh, yeah.
Because that's always the struggle for me.
Cutting unnecessary adverbs,
Okay.
reducing backstories, keeping descriptions brief.
Yeah, get to the point.
It's all about, like, trimming the fat, getting to the heart of the story.
The good stuff.
All right, so let's move on to body language.
Body language, good.
They emphasize this connection between look, feel, and sound.
Interesting.
It's like they're all intertwined,
Yeah.
influencing each other in this, like, dance of communication.
I love that they highlight this because I think it's often overlooked.
Right.
It's not just what you say.
Uh-huh.
It's how you say it.
Totally.
And body language plays a huge role in that.
So they break it down into these key areas with techniques for improving each one, like posture.
Posture.
They introduce this wall stand and grounding techniques.
Oh, interesting.
To help you project confidence and presence.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in posture. Just standing tall
Yeah.
changes your physiology.
Totally.
You can breathe deeper, project your voice better.
It's like an instant confidence boost.
Yeah, for sure.
And they go into hand gestures, too. They introduce these Satter categories.
Satter categories, what's that?
It's basically classifying hand movements based on their message.
Okay.
So, like, palms up is open, inviting.
Okay.
Palms down can be more authoritative.
Interesting.
Pointing can be aggressive. Open hands are inclusive.
So it's like a secret language.
Yeah.
You can use it to enhance your communication.
And they emphasize keeping your gestures within the power sphere.
Power sphere.
Which is like from your waist to your shoulders
Okay.
for maximum impact.
Makes sense.
So you're not like flailing your arms around.
Right, you look more in control.
Okay. Facial expression.
Facial expressions, yes.
Super important for conveying emotion
Oh, absolutely.
and
Right.
providing context.
There's like a window to your soul.
And they make this point that, like, By becoming more aware of our own expressions,
Okay.
we actually become better at reading other people's faces,
Oh, that's interesting.
which helps us communicate better.
Makes sense, yeah.
Now, eye contact.
Eye contact. Crucial.
Crucial for building trust.
Uh-huh.
Rapport, they give techniques for one-on-one and one-to-many.
What about in a group setting? Because that can be tricky.
Oh, yeah.
Trying to make eye contact with everyone.
Right. They suggest this triangle method,
Triangle method.
where you divide the audience into 3 sections,
Uh-huh.
and you make eye contact with individuals in each section.
So you're connecting with the whole room
Exactly.
and holding eye contact for the right amount of time.
Oh, yeah. Not too long.
Not too short.
Not too short. Yeah.
Got to find that sweet spot.
Exactly. Finding that natural flow.
Okay, now, how about movement?
Oh, yeah. They have this cool concept called anchors.
Anchors, what are those?
So they're like specific points in space that you associate with different parts of your story or presentation.
Interesting. So, like, how would that work?
Okay, imagine you're giving a presentation about, like, your company's journey.
Uh-huh.
You might have one spot that's the past,
Okay.
one spot that's the present,
Gotcha.
one spot that's the future.
And you move to each spot as you talk about it.
Exactly. So you're physically embodying the timeline.
Oh, I like that.
And they emphasize that it's not about just moving randomly.
Right.
It's about moving with purpose.
Makes sense.
To emphasize certain points,
Yeah.
create transitions, bring your story to life.
So it's like choreography, almost.
Right.
And I imagine stillness can be just as powerful as movement.
Oh, absolutely.
Sometimes those moments where you just stop,
Yeah.
let your words sink in.
It's all about finding that balance.
Right. The yin and yang of communication.
Okay, now for practical application, do they give any tips on how to practice this stuff?
Because, becoming aware of your body language,
Right.
it could be tricky.
They actually suggest recording yourself.
Oh, that's always a little cringy.
I know, but it's effective.
Yeah. You can see those little quirks.
Exactly, and make adjustments.
Like having an outside perspective.
Right, and it's not just about eliminating the bad stuff. It's
Yeah.
also about, like, recognizing when your body language is really working for you
Oh, yeah.
and then replicating that.
Amplifying your strengths.
And it's not just for, like, public speaking. It's
No,
for
yeah.
everyday conversations, meetings, even virtual interactions.
Oh, yeah. Virtual calls are a whole other beast.
They even have tips for that.
Really?
Like camera angles, lighting, hand gestures.
Ah, that's great.
It's all about being more aware of how you're showing up
I like that.
and making those little tweaks.
Yeah. So it's not just something you do on autopilot.
Right. It's a conscious practice.
I love that.
So what do you think about their emphasis on practice?
Oh, it's everything, right?
It's one thing to read about it,
You got to get out there and
but you got to actually put it into action.
Yeah. Experiment, make mistakes.
And they even suggest practicing in, like, fun ways.
Oh, like what?
Like trying out those vocal archetypes when you order coffee
Oh, I like that.
or
one.
chat with a friend.
Bringing it into your everyday life.
Exactly.
That's fantastic.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into this Stage Academy workbook,
Okay.
I want to leave you with a thought-provoking question.
All right, hit me.
If you could master just one communication skill from everything we've talked about, which one would have the biggest impact on your life?
And why?
And why?
That's a tough one. Let me think. That's a tough one. Let me think. I think I'd have to go with mastering the art of storytelling.
Oh, interesting choice. Tell me more about why you landed on that one.
Well, like we were saying earlier, stories have this incredible power to connect with people
Uh-huh.
on like an emotional level. They can inspire, they can motivate, they can persuade,
Right.
they can even heal. And in a world that's so full of information these days,
Yeah, it's overwhelming.
I think the ability to craft, to tell a compelling story is becoming even more important.
I totally agree. And I love how the workbook emphasizes that storytelling isn't just for, like, professional speakers or entertainers or whatever. It's a skill that can benefit anyone.
Oh, absolutely. Think about it. We use stories all the time.
Yeah, we do.
In our everyday lives, sharing a funny anecdote with a friend, recounting an experience,
Right.
or even like just trying to get a colleague to see your point of view.
Yeah.
We're constantly using stories.
Yeah, that's such a great point. It's like storytelling is woven into, like, the fabric of how we communicate as humans.
It really is.
And by becoming more conscious of it, more intentional, we can really amplify our impact and make more meaningful connections.
Exactly. And the workbook gives us that, that practical framework.
Right.
The incident, the point, the link.
Right. Simple but powerful.
Simple but powerful. Anyone can use it.
And I love their emphasis on incorporating sensory details, bringing characters to life, connecting the story back to the listener.
It's all about those little details that make a story stick.
Exactly. And I think the cool thing about storytelling is that it's a skill you can always work on.
Always improving.
It's like a lifelong journey of exploration and discovery.
And there are so many resources out there to help you along the way.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Books, workshops, courses, even just paying attention to the stories around you every day.
Right, right.
It's like becoming a student of storytelling.
Yeah.
Observe what others are doing and then experiment with your own voice.
It's so true. And, wrapping up this deep dive into the Stage Academy Workbook, I'm just struck by how practical it is.
It's really useful. It's not just theory.
It covers everything from those basic principles
Mhm.
to these nuanced techniques. It's great.
It's like a toolbox for anyone who wants to be a better communicator.
So if you're ready to level up your communication skills,
Yeah.
I highly recommend checking this workbook out.
Yeah, it's a great resource.
It's packed with tips and techniques that can really make a difference in how you connect with others, share your ideas, and make your voice heard.
And remember, this is a journey.
Yes.
Embrace the challenge, try new things, and have fun along the way.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Go out there, embrace the power of communication, and make your voice heard.